3, 2, 1, roll the footage. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Severino, your host, and my guest today is on a mission to end world hunger. He runs a firm called SmartCast, and we will dive deep into how to solve the global nutrition problem, why tech is the answer, and how it feels to scale a business across the globe. Welcome, everybody, David Meszaros.
Thanks for having me.
David, why isn't everybody fed on the planet? Do we have a production problem or a distribution problem?
I always like to start this by mentioning food security and its most traditional description by the United Nations, which actually rests on 4 pillars. Very, very simple, short. Access, availability, utility, and stability. When you say food security, everybody always thinks about, to have enough food, right, to feed the people. One thing they always forget is there are 2 billion people who are obese, so overfed, yet 850 million people are starving. 150 million of these 850 are children who are permanently stunted in their growth because of lack of food. So I would say food security is not just a pure production problem, it's also a logistical problem, it's also a geopolitical problem, a climate problem. It's a very, very complex issue.
And you have picked which angle to solve it?
Well, very ambitiously and arrogantly, we picked all of it. We call our business model food security as a service. So instead of selling very expensive toys, like here's a vertical farm, there is a greenhouse, and then we build one in Ethiopia, just say an example, and then good luck, have fun. We picked as our business model the process of owning these farms and operating them in perpetuity, and thereby trying to contract with governments and trying to contract with local powerful institutions to service the needs of that given country from that country. So my aim is to make access to food and water a basic human right, but by enabling, do you know the old adage, teach a man how to fish and don't give him fish? So I believe in that.
What are some obstacles right now while you're building this?
I think everybody knows about the pandemic, COVID, that shook the world. And I think that was just a taste of what we will see with the increasing effects of climate change. The entire geopolitical scene is also shaking if you just look at the war. And honestly, these have been happening more and more frequently and with increasing recurrence. I think within 10 to 20 years, we will reach a point of no return. And I'm not trying to paint a doomsday scenario here, but we have technology in our hands that can enable every single country to produce enough food for their own population. So we should not rely on international trade and globalization that, someone will come and save us. So if you just look at the energy prices and crisis, if you just look at the lack of fertilizers, shortage of chips, for example, if you just look at the automotive industry, these are all early signs of a much, much, much bigger issue. And SmartCast, my company, took it as its mission to combat this from the food angle.
Is AI helping at all in your case?
Yes and no. I think AI is going through the same kind of hype that, for example, crypto and blockchain went through in the past 4 or 5 years, or the dot-com bubble, or these recurring new hyped up things that, now AI is the solution to everything. The problem with AI in controlled environment agriculture, so that's when you grow indoors and not on an open field, is that you're already controlling every single parameter, right? You create the light, you create the air, you create the nutrition, everything is controlled. So if it's already controlled, what variables are left for AI to think about, right? So yes, AI plays a massive role in nutrition measurements, data-driven
Where
economies,
to sell
etc.
it? Where to sell? So if I have this production facility, I'm thinking, oh, which market needs it now, and where do I need to send it to?
Absolutely. So then you're talking more from the economic, trade, and logistical perspective, where 100% agree with you. Strictly from biology, crop physiology, I don't think so. Maybe for biologists who are working on new genes, new types of weather resilient crops, AI can do modeling with predictive algorithms. Amazing. But from a pure production perspective, AI is nice as a monitoring tool, maybe as a control tool in the next 5 to 10 years. We're not there yet, but I would not really call it the next messiah as far as agriculture is concerned.
My image, and I'm an amateur in this, my image is that we will have those facilities, they produce food, and then there are smart contracts and AIs that say, all right, this is ready to be sold at that market at that price. Go self-driving tractor, bring it there, and then something brings back another resource that the facility needs, and it's all auto-regulated because it's, as you say, most of it is boring. It's just logistics, and then people will do some decisions around it. What should we have more? How should we distribute it? How far am I from reality?
I think you're dead on. I think that's exactly how I see it as well. If you just think about the finance industry, right? Arbitrage bots are making 9 out of every 10 financial decision, or bot assisted decision making. So if they are able to buy and sell stocks and commodities using AI, we're not really far off from having this translated down to the little man's perspective, where you know a bakery can put up an order for flour, and then it will automatically be transferred ported to you. Contracts auto execute, the purchase and the whole transaction side. I think the biggest obstacle to all of this is humanity itself, and the lagging of the regulation. So if you just look at the US, Tesla, for example, self-driving cars, it's not really, of course, there are issues with the technology. It's a growing industry, but it's not really the technology that's setting the boundaries. It's law. So I
Mhm.
always find that fascinating.
Absolutely. Tesla is my biggest position by far, and every week I'm adding Tesla because I see it happening. But really, the boundary condition is actually politicians, right?
Correct. Fully agree with you. And this is going to be exactly the same with drones, with AI, with smart agriculture, with almost everything that would fundamentally shake our world, and probably, if I might say, take some money out of pockets that have gotten used to those pockets for 10, 50, 100 years. Everything that shakes old economy and creates new economy, they have a natural aversion to. They have a resistance to it.
How will this fight unfold over the next years?
I can only speak for my specific sector. Uh, I think two big realizations need to happen. One in the heads of the farmers, right? The traditional food producers, and the second one in the retail industry. The farmers need to realize that who is actually a farmer, right? Because everybody says that it's the largest employer and all of that stuff. People who work on farms, but those are seasonal employees, right? So if you are from a farmer family and you own land and you own tractors and you own greenhouses, you're the only true farmer who cares about the future of that farm. If you go bust, they will just go work at fast food chains, factories, whatever. That they're not career agronomists, right? 99.9% of the people who work in agriculture are not doing that for a career. They're doing it to get, a buck, to make some money. So if you translate that to an automated, robotized, controlled environment agriculture, the farmer will still be the owner of that farm. So the farmer is not moved from his position. He just replaces the unstable and unreliable human component for AI and robots. Simple, to put it simply. On the other side of it, once the retail chains, supermarkets, restaurants, everybody learns about the beauties of controlled environment agriculture, that you can have pesticide free all year round premium produce from 1st of January until 31st of December. You don't have to rely anymore on the sun. Now it's beautiful and shining here in the Netherlands, but you know how it can be in Dutch weather and English weather, and it's really whimsical. You can never trust it. Then they will also realize that to get steady, stable, premium supply of fresh fruits and vegetables, this is the only way.
Let's look at some specific countries, especially now that we are entering a recession, or maybe even are already in a recession in some of them, after one word from our sponsors. What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com. Media is talking about a possible coming recession or stagnation. I went through the numbers today and I saw that some countries are already in a recession. Specifically Austria, where I'm sitting right now, Germany, and other European countries are right now in a recession. How about food security in those countries?
I completely share that opinion with you. I think if you just look at interest rates, if you look at employment, if you look at the overall economic, macro and micro parameters, we are 100% in a recession. It's ignorance to say that it's coming. No, it's here. And I think it started at the late end of the COVID craze around 21, 22. And now we're just, going deeper and deeper into it. I think having food security, having enough food, good enough food, and a stable agronomical environment for every single country should be top priority, right? Because think of it like this. 1 to 10% of the GDP of a country, depending on their size, right? It's smaller percentage for US, bigger percentage for Austria, for example, goes to non-renewable agroforestry expenditure. That's when they buy pesticides for the farmers, fuel for the logistics, cut down trees, etc., etc., etc. So it's non-renewable. If you took that money, which is billions of euros, and you invest it once into a renewable source of food production, it doesn't have to be SmartCast. There are many other companies that are doing similar things, what we do, just a little bit differently. Then what you have is not only you secured food production for your country, but you also freed up billions that you can spend on healthcare, education, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So I think that there is a fundamental flaw in their thinking. And if I can just say one more thought about this, 2017, 2018, Belgium had no government. They were not able to elect a proper government, so it went on for a while. If I remember correctly, that was the 1 year when the country made a sufficit on their balance sheet. So they accidentally made money while having no government. So I think you understand where I'm going with this.
Absolutely. I heard Chamat Palipatia on the All In podcast, which is a podcast that I love. And he said, all right, there's one thing. We cannot stop politicians from spending money. They will never stop spending money that they don't have. So there is only one thing I propose. It's cutting their salaries.
Yeah, if you look at ancient Rome and ancient Greece, only wealthy, influential people could become politicians. because that was one way where they could potentially, hopefully, avoid being corrupt, that they don't need money anymore. Now, that has festered into an abomination by the 21st century, but at least the original idea was there 3,000 years ago.
How is it to scale your company right now in this condition over countries?
It's difficult, but very easy at the same time. Let me quickly explain. It's of course difficult because, like every other company, irrespective of sector, you're impacted by the recession that we both agree on, right? That it exists. So that means access to new funding, access to new project funding and project financing is becoming not. I'm not saying difficult. It's different. You have to pitch in a different way. This is also the economic climate where you really see who is just saying that they're sustainable and they care about the world, and who is just, saving their assets and their portfolio. And oh, I'm green when it helps my portfolio, but I don't really care when it doesn't. So I would say that's the difficult part. On the other hand, it sounds very sad and morbid almost, but there wasn't a better time. Understand it like there wasn't a worst time to actually have a need for a company like mine. So, you can shine brighter in darkness, and these are dark times, especially for energy, for logistics, for food production. So we have a bigger contrast. We can have bigger impact than during the golden era of the late 20th century, for example.
In terms of raw materials, basic components, what are the main bottlenecks in agriculture right now? Is it potassium? Is it a specific raw material?
So there are three main groups of agriculture. There is the traditional open field agriculture, and I consider also polytunnels and everything to belong to this group. Then there is the advanced greenhouses, like the Dutch greenhouses, which is already a form of controlled environment. And then, of course, the indoor farms, vertical farms, very simply put. So these three farms have three different unique problems and bottlenecks. The traditional is what you said. It's potassium, it's fertilizers, it's, the general non-renewable, non-sustainable stuff that they keep throwing on the ground. Fun fact, fertilizer use has increased by 400% since the 1960s, and total global food production by 20%. So that gives you an idea of how inefficient these chemicals are. Number two, the war causes a big issue for greenhouse builders. Most, if not all, of the trustworthy, good quality, but still cheap glass came from Russia. So that means that there are two alternatives. Either you go to China, which is really bad quality glass for the greenhouse, or you go to US or Germany, which is really good quality, but of course very expensive compared to the Russian equivalent. And number three, which impacts us most, is of course the chip shortage, because we use robots and lifts and all kinds of conveyor belts, and they all have chips in them and safety cards. And if anybody ordered a car in the past 2 years, knows that there's an insane shortage and an insane delay from Mercedes, from Volkswagen, from BMW, and that, I would say, those are the big bottlenecks for the three different industries.
How can we listeners support your mission?
So our website is www.smartcast.com. We consider ourselves a B2G company. So that means we're actually not selling anything to the listeners, to the audience, to anyone. So the reason we do social media is to create brand awareness, but also to spread the message. So that's just about enough help and support that you can do, that you follow us on social media, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and YouTube, and you just leave a like, just leave a comment, because we are proud of our noble mission, and we just want to make everybody aware. This is not against any farmers. This is not taking away jobs. This is not stealing money from locals. This is a new wave of agriculture, and if enough people are aware, then maybe we can create a large enough group, not just with SmartCast, but other like-minded companies, to make a dent, to make a change, to cause some positive difference in the world.
I'm going to Instagram right now. What do I type in for the people listening?
SmartCast Tech. So that's SmartCast. Our company is smart, like the English word. The CAS is KAS, and then Tech, TECH.
I found it.
And the same for LinkedIn and YouTube.
Perfect. Let's follow everybody. Wonderful mission. Thank you for doing this. And is there any specific newsletter we can subscribe to, or how can we see what's coming up next? Be in the loop.
We are always very active on social media, and we also share our monthly, sometimes quarterly news over there. So there you always see a MailChimp link where you can subscribe to our newsletter. The next big thing we're doing is next week in Amsterdam, there is Green Tech, which is a large agricultural, horticultural event. I'm also on the vision stage, and some of my colleagues are also presenting. So we are actively taking part in the organization and speaking. And after that, we are gearing up for a new fundraising round where we want to build a massive project in northeast of the Netherlands.
David Meszaros, everybody, thank you so much. Keep rolling, keep building the good stuff. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com.